Hello everyone, I'm Mike Kuhn from BUIDLHub, one of the founders, and I wanted to share something with you that I ran into last night when I was trying to integrate the Ethereum naming service smart contract with BUIDLHub. What I wanted to do, I thought was pretty simple. All I wanted to do was post an ENS name to BUIDLHub, have it call on chain, and get the expiration time for that domain. Seems pretty simple. So I'm going to run through exactly what I did last night and show you what I ran into, and then talk about what this means and how it impacts BUIDLHub and maybe the larger community, and then how we basically have a workaround. Okay, so the first thing I did is I said, all right, well, I want to create an app because not many people know about ENS or how it works or where the contracts are deployed. So if you're in that situation where you have that insider knowledge about an app that you think is very useful, then you would define it in BUIDLHub as this app, which is essentially saying, here's a black box and the inputs and outputs. You don't need to know the detail, just like what you can subscribe to and what you can query. And then this app takes care of all of the other details. So we'll call this the ENS ETH registry. And I'm focusing specifically on ETH as the top level domain, just as an example, but you'll see what happens. Okay, this is the ENS.ETH registry contract. What I'm typing in, like the description and name, these are things that people will see if they try to use this app on Flow Designer. So I'm trying to be descriptive. I'm trying to use icons that make sense because, you kind of want people to understand what's going on. Okay, first thing I have to do is add a connector. And the connector basically tells BUIDLHub how to find this particular app out on the network. It is a smart contract, and it's on mainnet. Let me get the address, copy that over. And I have a choice. Either I can use Etherscan to resolve the ABI, or I can use my own. Just depends on the situation. Like if you have a proxy contract, you probably want to use your own, or like figure out how to get the ABI on Etherscan. But in this case, it's all out on Etherscan, so I just click that and we take care of bringing it in. Okay, so now BUIDLHub knows how to reach this or find this contract and decode its transactions, but now we need to give it some interactivity. For this particular demo, again, we want to basically call on chain to find out when a name is expired. So we're going to add a query by calling one of the contract functions. And the function we're going to call is name expires, and this guy needs an argument. So this will be interesting. The way we want to make this eventually is you don't have to type this crazy syntax. What this is saying is there's going to be a parameter, params, that's how we refer to parameters, called ENS name. And whatever the value of that parameter is, resolve it and make it the argument to name expires. That's all this is saying. Again, eventually we want to make this more seamless, like you just click a button, say what the user should input, and it'll fill it in for you behind the scenes. But this is where we're starting. Okay, give a name to the function, the query function people will see. We want to look up the expiration description, look up expiration time of an ENS name. Okay. And here's the input parameter. So I'm going to add an input. Remember, we called it ENS name. And now that's the name we referred to it as in that curly bracket syntax. But the user only sees this ENS name label. It's a string. And the description will be what ENS name to look up. Okay. And we save that. And we're good. Now at this point, BUIDLHub knows how to find it and decode this smart contract out on the network, and we have at least one way to interact with it. We have a query. So at this point, we can use it in a flow. So let's do that. Okay, so the exercise was we're going to receive a post. The body in that post of the JSON will have a field that we need to use as the ENS name, and we want to look up whatever's in that field on ENS and return the expiration. So to kick off the flow, we need an HTTP webhook with an inbound JSON post. This is what's going to actually get this flow started. Okay, that's the URL we're going to post to, and we could put a secret in here to make sure it's only us talking to it, but we'll skip that for now. All right, so now we need to tell BUIDLHub what we're posting. BUIDLHub.eth. All right, so what's important here is the name, not necessarily the value, at least not yet. This essentially says, you know, this is the schema of whatever we're going to post to BUIDLHub. And the reason we need this is so that you can pick what are the output fields of this particular step. And in this case, there's only one field, ENS name, so that's what we're outputting. All right, so we get a post, and what we want to do is call on chain. So we're going to call the contract or the app we just created. And this is interesting. So remember, we put that input parameter called ENS name. That's what this is sort of referring to. But instead of hard coding some value, we're going to use that syntax again to this time say, reach into the event and grab a field called ENS property, or ENS name. That refers to the output of the previous step, the ENS name, because it's sending an event into this step. So we're saying that event has a property called ENS name. Whatever that is, use that as the input parameter for whatever the contract needs. Make sense? Okay, so now we kick this guy off. I copy the URL, go over to Postman, paste that in. I'm posting basically ENS name equals BUIDLHub.eth. And, look at that. I get nothing back. I expected to get an expiration. And it was at this point last night where I kind of scratched my head and asking myself, like, what's the deal? What's going on? And let's see. So basically, this is saying we have an invalid number value called BUIDLHub.eth. Well, that's true. That's not a number. So I looked at all the documentation for ENS, and it turns out that, yeah, it doesn't take just the domain name. It takes this special hash. And, you know, you have to do this. First, you have to look up the TLD registrar and then hash things in a specific way and then get results. So the point is that in a broader context, if ENS is intended to eventually replace DNS, which would be badass, by the way, then we need to get the people that understand DNS to start playing with ENS, right? I mean, they have to kick the tires. They have to understand how it works before they can start integrating into routers and whatever else is going on. So if that's the case, then we need to make this as simple as possible. But the first thing we hit them with is you need to learn how to hash, use SHA-256 and this name hash algorithm. You got to go read the paper to understand what that means. And yeah, that's a non-starter, guys. I mean, that's not going to happen. We're going to lose them right at the beginning. So I was trying to basically demonstrate how BUIDLHub could make that whole process easier, and even we fell down in the very beginning. So this is a non-starter. What I ended up doing, however, because I still wanted to do, achieve my goal, is instead I just made it a native part of BUIDLHub. What that means is that built into BUIDLHub now we have an ENS extension. The cool thing about this is, one, it only took me 2 hours to write, so we can add these things pretty quickly. So we'll continue to do that, obviously. But another reason that I didn't want to just start creating utilities to do hashing functions and everything was, think about how ENS works. Like, I call the main registry in order to, and then find the address of the top-level domain registry in order to do lookups. Well, as I demonstrated here, I was just dealing with the .eth. But what happens when I want .crypto or whatever? I'd have to write an app for each one of those things. So instead, I thought, well, it's much more generic if I just create an ENS extension of BUIDLHub that allows you to just pass in the name, and we take care of parsing where the registrar contract is and doing the proper encoding. So that's what I did this morning. And let me show you what that looks like. So instead of the one that doesn't work, we'll use the ENS naming service, get expiration. And we can use the same exact syntax as before, event.ens name. Save that. So now if I run this flow and I call with Postman, I should get back my expiration. And there it is. So I see the time it expires as well as the remaining seconds. Now the cool thing about this is it allows us to do something which is even more badass, which is I want to replace GoDaddy. I don't want GoDaddy to have to email me that my domain's about to expire. I want to do that on my own. So all I have to do is look at BUIDLHub and say, every so often, I want you to run this flow for me. In fact, I want you to do it every 30 minutes. We would obviously choose a longer time span in real life. I'm checking the expiration of a domain, but let's just do this. And every 30 minutes, I want you to go to the Ethereum naming service and get the expiration time. And this time, I could actually wire up, hardwire my domain because I'm monitoring my address in this case. Okay, so every 30 minutes, check the domain expiration, and we need to check to see if it's going to expire. So that's basically a filter, and we want to say, all right, if the remaining seconds is less than, and this is a bit kludgy. We want to again fix the input. It'd be nice if I could just say 1 month, right? We'll get there. For now, I basically have to put in the number of seconds that I'm evaluating. So that's 1 year in seconds. This is basically saying, how do I want to evaluate all the filters? If I had more than one filter, I could say whether like all of the filters have to match in order to get something through this, or if like any of them hit, it will get hit. Just choose all. And yeah, save that. Now, if my domain's about to expire, what do I want to do? Well, I probably want an email. So send me an email that says the BUIDLHub.eth domain is about to expire. Remaining seconds. And just like we could refer to things as parameters, we can also refer to them in an email. Again, we want to make a formatter to like turn that into a date, not just seconds and things like that, but this is where we're starting. It'll get better. Okay, so now I'm going to kick that off, and I'm going to pretend that time has gone fast, and we're going to trigger our Lambda, the thing that's actually doing the timer in the background. And we should see a message come through that it basically checked the expiration and went all the way through. That's what that one means. We have an event. Check my email. And there it is. My domain's about to expire, and that's in the remaining seconds. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what's possible. There are situations where we won't be able to handle all contract situations, and when those come up, we'd love to hear about it and what the issues are. Maybe we can either bake it directly into BUIDLHub or write utilities to make it possible. But ultimately, we need a way to replace the logistical infrastructure of existing Web 2.0 entities like banks and retirement accounts if we expect people to use blockchain services. And this is an example where I just replaced GoDaddy equivalent for domain registries in ENS, and that's badass. So hope you enjoyed. Definitely come back. And I wanted to say this. So obviously the question will come up, well, if it's not GoDaddy notifying them, isn't it just BUIDLHub now? And yes, that is true. And we have an answer for that, and it's coming soon. So definitely stay tuned, because we want to make it possible for you to run all of this without BUIDLHub in the mix at all. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.